Hello again and welcome to another lesson. Today we're carrying on with parabolas and we're looking at the turning point form. Now previously we did the standard form, which most of us are used to, and then we did the intercept form. So now let's look at the turning point, and we see that if you're given the turning point on a parabola, you are able to substitute that turning point into this equation where P is the x and Q is the y. Now it's negative P because we know that negative shifts the graph forwards in a parabola, whereas the Q, a positive shifts it up and a negative shifts it down. So the Q is more intuitive, whereas the P is counterintuitive. So plus takes it backwards. So what I've done is I'm going to look at a past paper question because most of you have done this in grade 10 and 11, and I think what happens is when you get a question in an exam, it looks a little bit different from what you're given when it's just a simple class lesson. So I'm going to incorporate this exam question, and what we need to do is practice as many of these exam questions as possible so that you're used to the type of questions that you're going to get in the final exam. So question 4 says x minus 4 squared minus 9. So what we're given is the turning point. We're given the turning point formula, and so we can sub in. We already know that E, which is the turning point, is going to be the x value is going to be 4 because it's minus 4, so it's the other way around. And then the y value is going to be minus 9. So we already know this point. So 4.1 asks, well, what is the turning point? What are the coordinates of E? So we can just put that in. That's a nice 2 marks. 4.2 says calculate the coordinates of A. Right, so what we do is we now know that we can substitute in the turning point formula, which we've already been given. So what we can do is now times this out. So we get the standard form of the equation, and then we can solve the roots because we see that A and B are the roots. So this would give me the points of A and B. So I'm going to times this out. So it's when I times f of x out, I get x squared minus 4 times x is minus 4x, and I double that because it's a square, so that's minus 8x. Minus 4 times minus 4 is plus 16, and then minus 9. And so I get equals x squared minus 8x, and then plus 16 minus 9 is plus 7. So then I know that it's, because it's positive and negative in the middle, I know it's negative, negative. So x and minus and minus. And then we have a 7 and a 1 will sum to 8. So it's there and there. If you're not sure how I did this, check out my 4 ways to solve a quadratic equation. I'm going to put a link in this video right now so that you can check that out if you're not sure how to solve these quadratic equations. And so we know that x is equal to 1 or x is equal to 7. Now we know that A is going to be 1 and B must be the 7. So now we can substitute 1 into the original equation. And so we get 1 squared minus 8 times 1. We want to get y now. And then plus 7, and so then, of course, y is 0 because it's an intercept. So that just confirms that the answer is correct. Now we get, we know that it's 1 and 0. So we can say A is equal to 1 and 0. Okay, now 4.3 says M is a reflection of C in the axis of symmetry of f of x. So we know that the axis of symmetry of a parabola goes down the center like this. And M is a reflection of C in the axis of symmetry. So it goes to here. So basically what we're saying is if we rotate this 180 degrees, so let's just imagine that we're rotating it 180 degrees to that side, C will be over here. So what we need to do is we need to figure out, well, we know the Y value of C is going to be plus 7. So we know this value is 7. So we know the value of C will also be 7. So what we're going to do is we're going to substitute 7 for Y into the formula, and we're going to solve, and we're going to get our two X values. One of them we know is 0. So let's do that. So 4.3 we've got M as a reflection of C, so we're going to substitute in 7 for Y. So we're going to say 7 equals, and I'm going to use this formula here. I'm going to circle it so you know which one I mean. I'm going to use this formula here because this is easier to work with than the turning point formula now. Turning point formula is good to get the turning point, but this is better to solve because now the 7s we can see will cancel. So we get x squared minus 8x plus 7. The 7s go away. And so now we're going to get 0 equals, because the x values, we said 7 equals, now we solve, because now it becomes 0. So this is now, because the 7s are gone away, 0 equals x squared minus 8x. We can take the x out and we get x minus 8. And of course, that makes sense because one of our x's is then 0, which we know is that one over here. And then the other is x equals 8. So that's going to be over there. So we know it's that m is equal to the x value is 8 and the y value we see is 7. Okay, 4.4 says determine the equation of g in the form of y equals mx plus c. So g of x is our straight line, right? So we need a point on 2 points on the graph to solve. Well, first of all, we know that this point C, we know that C is equal to 0, and so let's just do that. So C, we know is 4.4. C is equal to 0 and 7. Okay, so that's one of our points. Now the second point is we're probably going to look at D, because D is the point at where we know that the D value is, the X value of D is 4 because of our turning point. And if we substitute back that into the original equation, we should get 0, because 0 is going to be the Y value. And let's just do that quickly without, so it'll be 16x squared. So x squared will be 16 because it's 4 squared. Minus 32. Sorry, we want the y. It's not on the parabola, it's on the straight line. Okay, so we don't need to do any substitutions. We just know that it's going to be 0 and 4. Sorry, the x value is 4. So point D is equal to 4 and 0, because that's on the straight line. It's where the straight line cuts, and they're telling us we already know that the x value is 4, and we can see that the y value is 0. So now we can sub in to get the gradient, because the standard form is y equals, so we should all remember our mx plus c. And C, let's make C, we haven't used pink, so C. So, well, C we know is 7, so we can actually put C in already. So we're not going to get the gradient, we're actually going to substitute X and Y in here. we're going to sub in 4, and we're going to solve for m by substituting in this point here. So the y is 0, and the x value is 4. And so then m is equal to, take the 7 across, it becomes minus 7. Minus 7 divided by 4 is minus 7 over 4. I'll just show you that quickly. 4m equals minus 7 when the minus 7 comes across, and then we divide through by 4, and that's how I got this here. Right, so now they want the form, so we just have to write that in. So it's y equals negative 7 over 4x plus 7. Now 4.5 says they want g of minus 1 in the form of y equals. So they want the inverse of this g of y. So that means we just swap. So inverse, from our inverse, we just do swapping x and y. So all we do is swap x and y. So they want g, which is easier than doing the parabola, because we can just say then x is equal to minus 7 over 4 y plus 7. We want y by itself, so let's take the y across. So 7 over 4 y equals, we took this across, this then becomes that side, minus x plus 7. We then times by 4, we times by 4 over 7 on both sides, because then these will cancel. It becomes minus 4 over 7x. If I times this by minus 4 over 7, the 7's cancel, and I get minus 4. So that is, then I'm going to write g of minus 1 equals. Okay, and then the last question says, for which values of x will x times f of x be less than 0? Well, what that means is that, so let's just write that. So let's put x in, we'll do x in orange. Okay, so this is x, right? And x over here is negative, and over here it's positive. So from here onwards, it's positive. I'm going to just do that a little bit thicker. Okay. And then the f of x is our parabola. Okay, so we see that that is going to be positive from here onwards. So a, we know a was 1, the value of x. So that was, let me do a thicker line, positive here and here. So that was where it was positive and positive. And over here, so let me just do that in a slightly different color. So this was then, oops, that's not obviously a different color. And then this here is where it is negative. So what we're saying is where x times f of x is negative, less than 0, less than or equal to 0, meaning that where are they going to have the opposite signs? Because a positive times a negative is a negative, a negative times a positive is a negative, but a positive times a positive is a positive, and a negative times a negative is a positive. So they have to be different signs. For when you multiply them together, they become negative or equal to 0. So we're going to look at where they are opposite signs. Well, we can see that over here, okay, so I'm going to do this in yellow where the x is negative. We can see that x is negative, and over here, f of x is positive, so it's true over here. So let's just do all the values in So from here onwards, we know that it's true. It's always going to be positive and x is always going to be negative. Over here, we see that f of x is positive, but this whole thing is positive over here. So it's only going to be true because x is always positive over here. It's only going to be true where f of x is negative. So it's going to be true from here to here. So we can simply just put in our values. So therefore we know that the answer will be where x is less than or equal to, because the equal to sign, 0. So that takes care of all these. And then in between, this was 1 and a, we got to be, this one we got to be 8. The other x-intercept, sorry, no, 7. Just find that quickly. That was m. Where's the other x-intercept? Oh, yeah, 7. Yes, it was 7. Okay. I should have written that in. Maybe I did, but I wrote over it. So 7. So from 1 to 7, it's all going to be negative and x is positive. So therefore, we can say that we can put our from 1 to 7, and x is between those two values. And, obviously. Okay, so that's 4.6. So we can just write there 4.6. And so we've answered a question. That would be the type of exam question that you'd be getting. So hopefully that helped you. Hopefully you now know how to use the turning point formula. Next time we're going to be doing exponential graphs. If this video helped you, please find the like, subscribe button down on the screen below. Share with all your friends, all that good stuff. And I will see you next time. Have a great day.